You walk out into your garden on a Saturday morning, coffee in hand, the air still cool, the grass damp under your shoes. You bend down to admire that flower bed you spent the whole spring building. And then you see them again, the same green invaders pushing through the soil. Right next to the rows you planted 3 weeks ago, mocking everything you did last weekend. That feeling, that quiet sinking in your chest when you realize the weeds are back for the 3rd time this month. That is the exact reason you clicked this video. You spend your Saturdays bent over, fingers in the dirt, pulling, and 7 days later, they are taller than before. Here is the truth. Most people are doing this completely the wrong way. You grab the weed at the top, you yank with your hand. You toss it in a bucket, and you feel like you won, and then nothing changes. The lawn keeps losing, the bed keeps filling, and your back keeps hurting. In the next few minutes, I am going to show you why pulling weeds the way you have always done it is actually feeding the problem. I am going to split this into 2 completely different weed situations because they need 2 completely different solutions. And at the end, I am going to give you the one prevention move that stops the cycle for good. You stop wasting every Saturday on your knees. Part 1. The broadleaf weeds in your lawn. The dandelions, the plantain, the clover patches scattered across the green. This matters first because this is the version that drives homeowners crazy every single spring. It is the one you are most likely to attack with your bare hands. You see a dandelion, you bend down, you grip the leaves, you pull, and the top comes off in your fingers. It feels satisfying, it looks clean, the lawn looks tidy for about an hour. But here is what is actually happening beneath your feet. A mature dandelion sends a taproot straight down into the soil. That root regularly reaches 25 centimeters deep, sometimes closer to 38 centimeters in older plants. When you pull from the top, you snap that root somewhere in the first 5 centimeters. You leave roughly 80% of the plant still alive underground. Worse than that, a broken dandelion root does not just regrow, it regenerates from multiple points along the break. This means one weed you pulled on Saturday becomes 2 or 3 weeds by the following weekend. So I want to be very clear. Every time you yank a dandelion with your hand, you are not killing it, you are pruning it and multiplying it. The fix is not more pulling, it is targeted killing. The simplest method, walk the lawn with a Selective broadleaf herbicide in a small handheld sprayer. Use the kind that contains 2,4-D or triclopyr or dicamba. Spot spray each weed directly on the leaves on a dry morning when the temperature is between 15 and 27 degrees Celsius. That is roughly 60 to 80 Fahrenheit. The chemistry works because these selective herbicides are absorbed through the leaf, transported down through the vascular system. They shut down cell division at the root tip. This means the entire taproot dies in place in about 7 to 14 days without you ever digging, if you prefer to avoid synthetic chemistry. Mix 4 liters of household white vinegar at 20% acetic acid with 30 milliliters of dish soap and a tablespoon of salt. Spray it directly on the leaves at midday in full sun. The acid will desiccate the foliage in under an hour. The vinegar method will not always kill the deepest roots on the first pass, so expect to repeat it once after 10 days. For the stubborn ones in the middle of a prized lawn area, use a long, thin weeding tool. Some people call it a fishtail or dandelion fork. Push it straight down beside the plant to a depth of at least 15 centimeters, lever it back, and the entire taproot lifts out clean. The mini prevention tip that applies to every broadleaf weed in your lawn: mow at 7 to 9 centimeters tall, never shorter. Tall grass shades the soil surface, and dandelion seeds need direct sunlight to germinate. A thicker, taller lawn cuts new weed emergence by more than 50% without you doing anything else. Part 2, and this is a completely different problem: the weeds growing in the cracks of your driveway. between your patio pavers, along the edge of your gravel path, and pushing through the joints in your block paving. This is technically a different fight because there is no lawn to protect, no surrounding plant you care about. The soil underneath is compacted, shallow, and hot, which changes everything about what works. The universal mistake most people make here is reaching for the same tool they used in the lawn, bending down with a knife or a screwdriver and scraping out each weed by hand from between the stones. You spend 3 hours, your knees are wrecked, and within 2 weeks they are back, often thicker. Because every time you scrape, you bring fresh weed seeds up from the soil joint to the surface where they germinate immediately. The catastrophic consequence is slower than you think. Those root systems in the cracks are slowly widening the joints, lifting the pavers. Within 2 or 3 seasons, you are looking at uneven slabs and a patio that needs to be relaid. This is a job that costs hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars or pounds. Here is how you actually solve it. Method 1, the cheapest and the one almost nobody tries first, boiling water. Boil a full kettle, walk straight outside, and pour it slowly directly onto each weed in the crack. The mechanical reason this works is that water at 100 degrees Celsius ruptures the plant cell walls instantly, cooks the upper root structure in the shallow joint. Because pavement cracks hold so little soil volume, the heat actually penetrates deep enough to kill the entire root, not just the leaves. You will see the weed yellow and collapse within 24 hours. For annual weeds in pavement, that single pour is often the entire treatment. Method 2, a horticultural vinegar solution stronger than the one you would use on the lawn. Ideally, 30% acetic acid, sold specifically as a weed killer. Decant into a pump sprayer and apply on a sunny day with no rain forecast for at least 48 hours. The acid burns through the waxy cuticle of the leaf, dehydrates the entire plant in 2 to 4 hours. Because pavement cracks have minimal soil to buffer the acidity, the kill rate on young weeds is close to 95%. Wear gloves and eye protection because at that concentration it will burn your skin. This is not the kitchen vinegar from Method 1. Method 3, the specialized approach for serious driveways and large patios. A small handheld weed-burning torch that runs off a propane canister, available for around $30 to $50. You do not need to set the weed on fire, you simply pass the flame slowly over the leaves for 2 or 3 seconds per plant, just long enough to wilt them. The heat boils the water inside the plant cells. The foliage collapses within minutes. The root, deprived of leaves, runs out of stored energy and dies within a week. This method is perfect for long driveway edges, where bending down for each weed would take you the entire afternoon. A single propane canister will treat a large driveway several times over. Part 3, prevention. This part is short because you already understand the mechanism. What I am about to tell you replaces 90% of the work you have been doing every weekend. The single universal action that prevents weeds from coming back in both your lawn and your pavement is mulch and pre-emergent, applied once in early spring and once in late summer. Here is why it works mechanically. In one sentence, weed seeds need light and bare soil contact to germinate. A 5 to 7 centimeter layer of mulch in your beds, combined with a pre-emergent granule on your lawn, physically blocks the light. Chemically prevents the seed from developing roots before it ever breaks the surface. For your flower beds and around your shrubs, use bark mulch or shredded hardwood. Spread it 5 to 7 centimeters thick. Keep it 5 centimeters away from plant stems so you do not rot the crown. For your lawn, apply a pre-emergent containing prodiamine or pendimethalin in early spring when soil temperatures hit 13 degrees Celsius. That is roughly 55 Fahrenheit for 3 consecutive days. Then again in late summer to catch the autumn germinators. For pavement cracks, Sweep polymeric sand into the joints after you have killed the existing weeds. That sand hardens with water into a flexible barrier that physically blocks new seeds from settling in. Doing this once costs you about 1 hour of your time and somewhere between $40 and $80 in materials. It saves you the roughly 30 hours per season you currently spend bent over pulling weeds, plus the hundreds of dollars in eventual paver repair you will not have to pay. Now, here is the new problem you are about to run into. Once you stop pulling, once you start spraying and mulching and applying pre-emergent the right way, you are going to notice something you never noticed before: the actual quality of your grass. With the weeds gone, the bare patches they were hiding will suddenly be obvious. You are going to see thin, yellow, patchy areas where the lawn never properly filled in. That is the next battle, and it is a completely different mechanism, because reseeding a thin lawn over treated soil has its own rules about timing, herbicide residue, and watering depth that almost everybody gets wrong on the first try. Getting it wrong means you waste your seed and stare at dirt for 2 months. If that is the situation you are walking into right now, or you can already see those thin spots forming, drop a comment below with the word patches and tell me what your lawn looks like. The next video is going to walk you through the exact step-by-step method to thicken a thin lawn in 21 days without tearing the whole thing up and starting over. Subscribe so you do not miss it, because the worst thing you can do after winning the weed fight is lose the grass fight right after. I want to make sure you finish this season with the lawn you actually pictured when you first walked outside with that cup of coffee.